Buster.
How you doing tonight, man?
How's it going, dude?
It is going. So I just want to, first things first, are you cool if I record? Maybe turn this into a video of some sort?
Yeah, sure. Do you need video from me?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to be turning my camera on.
Okay.
So you have some disagreements with my Augie video. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'd never seen you before, and I went to, there's a new like tab on YouTube where you can click on, I think it's like creators new to you or something like that, and you were the first person to pop up. I just like learned who Augie was like a couple days before, and so I clicked on the video and watched it. Yeah, I had a couple of gripes that I left in your comments that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about that is that within the first couple of months that I had found Augie, I was super stereotypical RFC viewer myself. I didn't really I would see Augie being really bad faith or just presenting himself in a really shitty manner, but I would just kind of ignore it simply because I was an Augie fan and Augie was a cool guy to me at the time. So get back to me in a few months and let me know what you think then after watching some of his streams. But for now, I am very interested in hearing what your gripes are, because I know you said you disagree with pretty much everything I said in the video, and all of my points were demonstrably wrong.
Yeah.
Now, I know that, comment section and predominant feedback from viewers and stuff like that isn't indicative of whether I was making good points in that video or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it did just seem a little strange to me that you were one of the only people that actually, disagreed with pretty much everything I said in the video.
So I think I mentioned this in the comment as well. I only made it about 12 minutes into the video, and it was at about 12 minutes where I kind of said, like, yeah, so far everything I've disagreed with. I did watch a little bit past it last night. I don't think there were any huge disagreements after the 12-minute mark, but everything leading up to that, yeah. And I'm not like... I think I said this in the comment as well. I'm not an Augie fan. Like, I'm not here to defend Augie in any way whatsoever. It's more so just the points that you made, I felt like they were incorrect, or even like you came to those conclusions uncharitably. And so, yeah, I can...
So which points in particular?
So the very first one is the... Zero is worse than zap tying. Now, you give an example that like somebody stabbing someone 28 times. So I guess let me frame it first. Augie was saying, or I guess Keemstar asked Augie, do you think either one of these people could come back to the platform and start making content again? And he was okay with zap tie coming back, but he wasn't okay with Zero coming back. And you were saying, like, Augie was saying one did things that were much worse than the other person. And so your response was, stabbing somebody 28 times or just stabbing them once and continuing on with your day. These two things are still both murder. And so it's the same crime either way.
So I think I know what you're about to be getting at, and I'm already very, I have clear optics now, looking back on that for sure. If we're arguing if one person is more redeemable than another person, obviously the person that stabbed somebody one time is a lot more redeemable than the psychopath that stabbed somebody 28 times. I didn't, I wasn't really arguing from the standpoint of who was more redeemable, which could be my mistake for sure, because I think that is mainly what the argument was. But yeah, I just used that reference because I thought of the 28 stab wounds meme from Detroit Become Human.
Okay, yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say is, yeah, there's a difference between saying somebody could come back to the platform if they're redeemable versus whether or not the crimes would be categorized in the same way. So yeah, okay, so then the other one was whether or not, I guess when you were... I guess I got a couple of questions. I don't really know the Zero zap tie scenario. So did you agree or disagree with Augie's interpretation of like what zap tie did, or like whether or not what zap tie did was worse than what Zero did?
At the end of the day, I think that is a very tricky argument to have, because I've heard a lot of people make the arguments that, Zero knowingly talked to a 14-year-old girl, which, I will by no means defend at all.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't my goal by bringing that up. But the thing with the Zaptai situation was that he was 20 and was talking to somebody that was 14 or 13, but was catfished. And she said she was 17 at first and then eventually said that she was 16 before everything came to light and she was, very under the age of consent. I've heard a lot of people try to make the legal argument of, well, Zaptai said that, in Zaptai's case, he was catfished and thought the girl was 16. And 16 in a lot of places is the age of consent. And I said, well, if you want to make the legal argument, it doesn't matter if legally, it does not matter if the girl says she is 16. It's either way, it's illegal. Statutory rape is defined. Not defined. I'm going about this wrong. Even if you're in a court of law and you tell the judge that this woman told me she was 16, or this little girl in that fucking case, even if you tell the judge that, she told me she was 16, that's still statutory rape, no matter the circumstances. Mm-hmm. I was talking to my other buddy Sleepy there the other day. I don't know if you know him or not, but we were talking, and I said it's kind of like that episode of Family Guy where Quagmire goes up to that girl with a tape recorder going. He's like, "How old are you, sweetheart?" And she's like, 18, and he stops the tape recorder, and he's like, "Oh, right. That doesn't matter, right? Even if that girl is underage, that's still statutory rape." So when you try and make the legal argument, there's a very quick argument to combat that argument that's on the same playing field.
Okay. Cool. So then, I guess the next one was when Grimsy was debating Augie. It seemed as though your interpretation of what was happening there was a little bit uncharitable. So one, like, Grimsy starts attacking Augie first, right? Calling him like a virgin and stuff like that. And it seemed as though Augie was just firing back and giving him more so like a taste of his own medicine. He didn't seem any more triggered. He didn't seem louder. He didn't seem pissed off. He just was returning fire to somebody who started ad homing him just moments before. But you seem to feel as though Augie's freaking out, or I think you say he's spurging, but you don't seem to feel the same about Grimsy firing the first ad hom.
Yeah, no, I thought about being charitable in that situation, but I also didn't want to argue from the standpoint of she started it, he started it, sort of thing. So I did just kind of avoid going from that standpoint. I just think that, like I said in the video, it was a bad debate on both sides. I'll never say that, Grimsy W. I think maybe I may have alluded to that in the video, which was my mistake, because it certainly wasn't a Grimsy W. It was a really horrible fucking debate on both sides. But I think just to double back to the disagreeing with 100% of my points up to the 12-minute mark, I don't, because I watched the video back before we hopped in this call together, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't understand how you could have disagreed with everything I said up until that point. A lot of one person had commented on that video, and I'm not saying comments are indicative to how good a video is. Real quick,
before you go on, I did want to respond to your point about Grimsy, because I feel as though Grimsy saying you're a virgin is a much worse insult than saying your channel is dying, right? One is obviously making fun of the guy. He means it. He's actually trying to call him out. He's actually trying to tell people this is a serious critique of this guy. I think he's really a virgin.
I don't know about that. On a face level, it probably seems like that's what Grimsy's trying to do. But at the end of the day, I really do think it's just clowning on somebody. I don't really think he's being dead fucking serious. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I think that is subjective.
This is a common insult towards Augie, right? This is a thing that people commonly say about him.
I mean, because the dude probably has literally never got his dick wet, to be fair. So,
Well, sure, but like it is meant as an insult, and it is meant to be like insulting. I think, you know, that's like a personal thing that people take a lot of pride in, and I think a lot of people will look at you a lot worse if you are a virgin versus whether or not your channel is dying. Like one is like a real personal insult towards like who you are as a man or who you are as a person, and the other one's just saying, hey, you're not making as good content as I am. Right?
so yeah, the thing about that is in when Grimsey's like, yeah, you know, I know it's a very, very critical thing to the Augie lore is that he's a virgin, and then Augie responds to that by saying, yeah, I don't know, your channel's fucking dead, nobody fucking cares about you, you fucking faggot, and it's like, you know, I'd say it's a bit of a different vibe from the two comments, and that's why I referred to it as spurging, is because, you know, Grimsey wasn't really spurging when he said it, he was just saying, you know, yeah, I get action and you don't. Haha, funny joke. And then Augie was like, yeah, your channel's fucking dead. Nobody fucking cares about you. Right.
Okay, yeah.
So I just saw the two things as a little bit different.
Okay, yeah, if it's like based on his attitude, I felt like they were both coming with like the same amount of heat as one another up to that point, and it seemed as though one was making like a much more personal insult towards the other, to where it makes sense for Augie to like get pissed off and fire back, especially when that's like the point of making fun of him for being a virgin, is probably to piss him off and you know, get some sort of reaction from him. I didn't think that it was like an overreaction to what it was he was saying. Like he wasn't like yelling or anything like that, right?
No, yeah, that's fair. And when I added that part in, and even before when I was watching it, it was a little nice to hear Augie spurging and not yelling about it. But I don't know. Yeah, I honestly I don't think I'm going to be conceding on that one, just for the simple fact that where Grimsey was coming from, it did seem like a more of an exaggerated joke, whereas Augie was just straight up going for the throat and being like, yeah, fuck you, your channel's fucking dead, faggot.
So if let's say Grimsey was being serious, do you think that that's like a much more personal and serious insult to call somebody a virgin versus saying that your channel's dying? Like one is obviously a lot more personal than the other, right?
I would say they're both pretty personal. I mean, Grimsey's put 3 years into his channel, and when a content creator with as much influence as Augie does, and as large of an audience as Augie does, I mean, I'd say that's a pretty personal thing to say as well. I wouldn't put them on very different levels at all.
Well, I'm not saying that. So I agree that they are both personal insults. It just seems like making a joke about somebody's virginity or whether or not they're able to get women, whether like this is like a bigger social, it has a bigger social impact, right? Like the way that people view somebody who's a grown man who's over 18 and it has never had sex their entire life, like there are, I feel like, large social implications to that sort of argument versus there's not really social implications to whether or not my channel is losing subscribers or whether or not it's getting more views currently. Like one obviously stings a lot more than the other.
I don't know about that. If we're talking about social implications in particular, I don't know about that. Like we're basically dealing with an audience that is solely from Augie's community right now when we're talking about this, right? So when Augie, big man Augie, you know, the man that everybody in his chat fucking suckles on his teats every single time he presses the go live button, when anything comes out of his mouth that's like a sort of personal attack, even if he's saying, you know, saying like something stupid like your fingers aren't long enough, just for example, first thing that came to my fucking mind, his audience is still going to eat that up and still look at it as just as hard of a personal attack, if not more of a personal attack and more of a burn, more of a gotcha than Grimsey's, yeah, well, you're a fucking virgin. It's just, if we're talking about social implications, I mean, his audience eats that shit up.
Okay. I suppose we're just gonna have a hard disagreement there. I feel like I understand like the implication on how much work you might have put into a channel and like how you might be downplaying that or kind of like poo-pooing on that work by making fun of somebody for having a dying channel. But like specifically, especially like men among men or like people even in Augie's chat, it just seems as though they're more likely to turn around and make fun of Augie for that or look down on him for.
I don't think his chat's
being
gonna
a
ever
virgin.
make fun of him for anything, dude. Do you see how hard latched they are onto his fucking nutsack with their mouths?
I'm sure there's a lot of people, but there's also a lot of haters in his chat. Like, he's got about 1,000 people at a time. Sometimes it seems as though like there's gonna be a good number of both.
I've spent a lot of times in his streams, man, and I rarely see anybody being like, Augie, that's an L take, or Augie, I can't believe, like, really, you're gonna reach like that? No, it's usually pretty much fucking everybody on his side. Like, that when I said in my video, I don't know if you made it this far, but I went on like a 3 or 4 minute straight rant of like, I cut out all my breaths, and it was just straight up me talking and like talking mad shit about Augie's chat. It was just, I remember saying at one point that I've never seen a creator procure such a biased, thoughtless, biased audience or something like that. And it's true. His audience is the bias that his audience has in his favor is fucking incomparable to any other streamer or content creator in general I've ever seen in my life. He could make a terrible fucking take, like, Zero shouldn't be allowed to have a redemption arc, but Zaptai should, and his audience eats that shit up. But that doesn't, I don't know, that is definitely maybe not the greatest example because, you know, the Zaptai situation is quote unquote subjective, but I personally don't think it is. But yeah.
Well, even I don't know that even like most people would view it the same way as his audience. Like if we walked up to a random person on the street and said, hey, this one guy's a virgin and this one guy has a YouTube channel that's not doing so great. Like I think most people would look at one as like much worse than the other.
Yeah, but that's an unrealistic situation, right? We're talking about social implications. I don't think that we're not talking about like some random person on the street and what they think. We're talking about the audience at the moment.
Well, in general, I'm talking about social implications, right? I'm talking about society. I'm talking about the way that people would view one insult versus another. Like, what are the implications? What are the social implications? How often do people get made fun of for one of them versus the other? Like, how much do people look down on somebody on one versus the other? And I feel like even there's a lot more implications, like, you know, that you could be an incel or like, you know, some sort of MGTOW dude, or like you know, there are and I've already mentioned like what, you know, your manliness or your ability to like get chicks or get laid. Like there are so many other implications that come with being a virgin as a grown adult than there are you know, having a YouTube channel that's failing. But
yeah, in my video though, I know we're having this argument right now, or this debating this at the moment, but in my video, I wasn't arguing the fact that one is worse than the other. I was just talking about how Augie responded to it, and while Grimsy came at him with a very mediocre insult, you could say somebody's a virgin. That's fine, right? That doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's not true. But when a creator like Augie that averages fucking 20-30K views per video, right, and he tells you your channel's fucking dead, you fucking suck, you fucking faggot, and it's like literally predominantly his audience watching. I doubt that Grimsy had more than 5 or 10 viewers in that chat watching in support of him.
Well, the reason that I'm making that argument, though, is to say that one is more deserving of like a higher response. If we're talking about responding within proportions, like it seems as though Augie's response was similar to the way that Grimsy was throwing the first shot. Like it seemed to be within proportion of attitude and everything else, even though one insult was a lot worse than the other.
Yeah, for sure. Grimsy definitely started the bad faith side of things in that debate. I'll give you that.
Okay. I guess whether or not his channel, he said, what did he say? Your channel is dead and all your content is about me. So this is part where I would specifically say that this is uncharitable, because you respond and say, oh wow, so all of his content is about you. I think anybody who listened to that doesn't think that literally each and every single video that was made by Augie or by Grimsy is about Augie, but I did take a second to go look up the words Grimsy and Augie, and I ended up with like a full page of just nothing but Grimsy videos about AugieRFC.
I think it's 8 separate videos. Yeah.
I tried. I kept scrolling and kept scrolling, and I never made it past like a Grimsy video about AugieRFC. So
no, I'll give you that for sure. He's done a lot of videos on Augie, but yeah, it was just the way that he portrayed it to his chat. The way he portrayed it was that he, like, you know, Grimsy is just fucking obsessed with Augie and is just like mauling over the fact that Augie is mauling over Augie in general, and just is completely incapable of getting views without Augie's name. And I just think that that's completely untrue, both of those things, because like it's very clear even when you look at the clip that I included in my video from Grimsy's video, that he just doesn't really give a fuck, right? Like, that debate got heated, but as soon as he walked away from that, I guarantee you he wasn't one of those people that started pacing around his room and thinking, whoa, wow, well, this guy's a fucking asshole. Like, I don't really think that Grimsy is nearly as obsessed as Augie was trying to make out. That's the only reason I said that part, and that wasn't even part of my script. That was just me going off script. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of videos that are like in the like 400 or 500 viewer ranks, and then he does a video on Augie and he's getting, you know, about 2,000, 1.5 thousand to 2,000. So yeah, like there seems to be like a big difference between mentioning Augie and not mentioning Augie.
Well, yeah, but if I do a video, say on like fucking Will Smith smacks Chris Rock at the Oscars, that'll get 67 views in a day. That's the last video I posted. And if I post a video about Dumpy, like that's my channel average, right? 70 views roughly per video, and I have nearly 800 subs. That kind of makes sense. I mean, I'm still learning this shit as I go. This is my first time actually. Like, I've had YouTube channels in the past, but this is my first time actually going at it like hardcore and building a decent sized audience. So I'm still learning as far as that goes. So don't take this, you know, at 100% face value. But if I make a video that says Dumpy is being canceled already, I get 700 views in 3 days. So it's like that for anybody, right? You have a designated channel average at a certain amount of subscribers. I would say that Grimsy averages roughly at 1K per video. Let me actually search him up right now. This is a very minute detail that doesn't really matter at all to the argument. Yeah, roughly, I'd say his average is 1K within 2 or 3 days of posting a video. But yeah, that's how it works for anybody, right? That's how it works for you. That's how it works for me. If you put a big name in the title, it's obviously going to do better.
Maybe I heard you incorrectly, but I was responding. I thought you said that it wasn't as though he needed Augie in his title in order to get a lot of views.
Well, we all need somebody bigger's name in our fucking title to get more views than our channel average. You know what I mean? Cheeto, that's my most popular video. My most popular video, second most popular, is on a Destiny streamer named GSXR Clyde. My third most popular, Pokemon and Gideon. Fourth most popular, GSXR Clyde again. These are all bigger names. That's like, you go through anybody's YouTube channel pretty much. Small, big, medium content creator, commentary creator. Well, I guess, yeah, that would only really apply to commentary creators. But you'll see their top 10 most popular videos are more than likely on other people, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That just seems to disagree with what you were saying before, as though like he needs somebody bigger like Augie's name in his title in order to get views like that.
Okay, fair. I may have worded that incorrectly.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing that I think you said Grimsy was making arguments in the debate. But all Grimsy was doing was just asking questions. Like, he was asking, seems like a gotcha question, but either way, like, he was asking a question. He hadn't made any arguments at the time, at least in the clip that you're playing. All he's asking him is, does he remember that, you know, that debate with, what's his name? I can't. Yes, he's asking him, do you remember the debate with Technicals? And you back out and you're like, yeah, see, like, he's making an argument and Augie's yelling at him to make an argument. Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, it doesn't sound as though he's making an argument. So go ahead.
No, for sure. I get where you're coming from. A lot of that debate was really just Grimsey spurging as well. I'll be completely honest. But that in particular, that was one of the very few legitimate points I think Grimsey actually brought to the table. In that debate, if not the only one. Like, I don't want to be too uncharitable to Grimsey, because brown nosing a little bit. I like the dude's content. Not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I think that was one of the very few very good points that he brought to the table, and that was anytime somebody brings up a criticism or any feedback to you whatsoever, you always say it's in bad faith. You always say it's out of context, just like he did with the technical situation. And Augie says, "Oh, me and technicals are cool now. It doesn't matter." But it does matter because he's using that as a point against you. Why can't you just fucking answer that? You know what I mean? Why can't you just be like, oh, well, yeah, maybe at the time, I wasn't cool with technicals, and so I kind of labeled that as bad faith and out of context. But instead, he just completely deflects it and says, it doesn't matter because we're cool now. But yes, it does, because he's bringing up a decent point, man.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what his point was. Just from the clip, it just seems as though he's asking him if he remembers the debate. Possibly it's going somewhere, but I guess to me it sounds like he doesn't want to get into it because he's cool with technicals, or he doesn't want to start crap with him again by bringing up old drama. But yeah, it just sounds like he's only asking questions to eventually get to a point. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think that was his point in general. Is that any time, because this is a point that I made in my video. This is something that I've been brewing in my head for a while now, is that Augie's very incapable of actually addressing criticism with something of substance. I'm pretty sure that's like a quote from my video, but it's just in that situation in particular. I would have to hard disagree that he's not bringing it up because he doesn't want to start crap with technicals. I think him and technicals are both at a maturity level where that just talking about their past beef wouldn't bring anything up. And I think Augie knows that. I don't think that was the reason at all. I think that Augie was just genuinely trying to dodge that by saying me and technicals are cool now.
I'm sorry. So maybe I'm misunderstanding your point. All right. So he is asking a question in your clip. What is the argument then?
The argument is that Grimsey said something along the lines of anytime somebody brings up a genuine criticism of you, you just say it's in bad faith or is out of context. Mm-hmm. And he then brings up the technical situation in which anything that I remember this personally myself watching Augie streams during that period. And this is when I was still I was teetering at this point, but I was still a pretty big fan of Augie and his content in general. But I personally remember him saying so many times that multiple different criticisms that Tech had of him was bad faith and out of context. And he said bad faith a lot. It was in bad faith a lot more than he said it was out of context. And Augie couldn't even address this, even though we all know it happened. Pretty much anybody watching that debate, even though they weren't going to call him out on it, knew that happened. This is something he said so many times, it was ingrained in our fucking brains. And that drama lasted for 2 months. So pretty much all of us remembered that, but he wasn't able to address it head on. Instead, he just said, no, me and him are cool now.
What? I'm sorry. What is it that everybody heard him do?
Anytime that technicals would send a criticism his way or have something negative to say about him, not even just saying something negative about him, anytime he had a legitimate criticism about Augie, how he presents himself, how he deals with certain situations, his inconsistencies, even when given to his audience, when technicals gives his audience video proof and stuff like that of Augie's inconsistencies, Augie would just say it's in bad faith, it's out of context.
And so in the debate with technicals, what is the inconsistent thing?
No, it wasn't. Grimsey wasn't referring to a debate with technicals. It was because Augie refused to debate him after that debate after the debate he had with him on Keemstar's stream. Mm-hmm. So Grimsey was just saying that on Augie's streams and stuff like that, that anytime that he would have to face a criticism that Tech made of him, he would say it was out of context or in bad faith. Okay.
I thought it was that he was being inconsistent in that other debate, but I suppose that was
he was being inconsistent in that other debate, definitely. That's what I used as the transition to all my different sections of the video.
Okay. I mean, kind of depends on, well, so that's the part that we were kind of going over earlier, is that depends on whether or not you actually think that one is more redeemable than the other. And it seems as though you admitted that, like, it is possible that one of those is more redeemable than the other, therefore it wouldn't be inconsistent.
Well, no, I admitted to the fact that stabbing somebody one time versus stabbing somebody 28 times, obviously the person that stabbed somebody once is going to be more redeemable. And I said that, you know, the only reason I added that example in particular, if I thought about this a little bit more, I probably could have added in a better example. But the only reason I added that one in was for the fucking 28 stab wounds meme. I don't think that Zap Tie is more redeemable than Zero, or vice versa. I really don't. That's just my opinion, and I know that like a lot of opinions on that situation in particular vary. But I really don't think that either one is more redeemable than the other.
I mean, so correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand of it, Zero was actually asking for like nude pictures from a younger girl with a bigger age gap, and Zap Tie was getting inappropriate pictures, not nudes, but he was getting inappropriate pictures from a girl with a that was a little bit older and had a smaller age gap. Do you not think that like one of those is worse than the other, and therefore one of them would be more redeemable than the other?
I think that they're both really fucked up, and I think that there should be a little bit of consistency between the two. And there wasn't, because Zap Tie was, you know, friends with Augie and Zero wasn't. Pretty sure if Zero was friends with Augie, well, I won't say that. That's fucking retarded what I was just about to say. Sorry.
Well, so
I just think that it was inconsistent based on a previous friendship.
I agree with you if we're looking at this as a dichotomy of either this is messed up or it's not messed up. But if we agree it's messed up, but we can say there's a scale of how messed up it is, I feel like the one with the bigger age gap and the younger girl asking for more provocative photos is the one that is more messed up and then therefore less likely to be redeemable. Unless you're saying like it, because my point is maybe your cutoff line is higher than Augie's, but you should at least be able to agree that one is worse than the other, and therefore Absolutely. It wouldn't be inconsistent of him. It just may be that you disagree with where he draws his line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will admit that you know, maybe that wasn't the most inconsistent. Yeah, based on what you just said, you're right. Maybe it wasn't the most inconsistent thing. I still think that there is inconsistency within that situation, but you know, looking at it from that perspective, from where you were just talking from, yeah, sure. Maybe I was including that a little bit just to, I don't know. I included that because I think that's one of his biggest inconsistencies to date. So, I mean, I got to go back. I got to backtrack a little bit, man. Like, I don't know. There's still a lot of inconsistency to that. They're both fucked up situations. Yes, one may be a little bit more fucked up than the other, but like it is literally like, I don't know. If we're talking more redeemable, sure, maybe Zap Tie's a bit more redeemable. But when Keemstar puts it like that and he says, should Zero be allowed a career? No. Should Zap Tie be allowed a career? Yes. That makes no fucking sense on paper and action, no matter what you're talking about. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, because you're looking at it as a dichotomy of either sexual harassment versus no sexual harassment, whereas like one, you've already agreed like is worse than the other. So I don't what part are you backtracking on then? Because if one is worse than the other, huh? I'm not backtracking. Like, I'm backtracking on the fact that I would say that there is less inconsistency involved because, like I said, I think that it is one of his biggest inconsistencies to date, and that's why I added it in the video to begin with, and that's why I added it in as every segment transition as well. Okay, so when I explain it that way, what part do you disagree with? If we're looking at it on a scale and one is worse than the other, what is the inconsistency? If it's not about where you draw your line versus where he draws his line,
I don't think either of them should be allowed a career.
Right, but that's where you draw your line. That's you saying, hey, I draw my line at a different place than he does. But that's not about an inconsistency because you agree they are two different situations where one is worse than the other.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's a subjective inconsistency. Just like that whole situation is subjective, for sure.
What's a subjective
think-
inconsistency?
In my opinion, it's an inconsistency.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that just like that whole situation is completely and entirely subjective. I'd say that me looking at it as an inconsistency would also be subjective.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I guess outside of that, then it doesn't look like we actually disagree on anything anymore. You had something else that you sounded like you were about to bring up earlier. Did you still want to?
I don't think so.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, it was great talking to you.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you, dude. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. If you, I'm in your server. If you ever want to reach out to me or anything like that, fucking, yeah, my DMs are open.
Hell yeah, dude. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good night, man.